With regards to values, with my design team, we always make sure that we start out a project by asking the client and listening to their needs. My firm belief is that we always listen to what the client wants, what the client needs, and not necessarily impose our own values on them. And just really listening to the client intently and making sure that we address all their needs and wants. Hello, I'm Liza Morales, and this is my life in architecture. Well, my journey in architecture has been kind of an organic one. It started out, with my family being in construction. So I come from a long line of engineers. So my grandfather, my father, my mother, and my brothers are engineers. So it was kind of like my birthright, I guess, to be in the world of construction. But I knew back then, even as a child, that I wanted to be an architect. I practiced in New York, and I got exposed to all the different opportunities and the different specializations. With regards to architecture, it was an exciting time to be in New York, to be experimenting and to really see what's out there. I kind of learned a little bit about sustainability and how it affects architecture. So that was something that I decided to bring back home when I came back home to the Philippines in 2009. So the first project that comes to mind is the Public Safety Savings and Loan Association Incorporated, or the PSSLAI building. It's right in EDSA near Crame. So this was a 12-story building, and that was kind of what kickstarted our career here, our design firm's practice here in the Philippines. That was one of the first few projects that I worked on after getting back from New York. What made it interesting was that the client wanted something that the Philippines has not seen. I mean, back then, 12, 13, 14 years ago, sustainability was still kind of like at its infancy. It was a very challenging project because a lot of the materials, a lot of the finishes, a lot of the technology, which are now readily available, were not yet made available to us at that time. They also wanted to make sure that this was going to be a landmark building, going to be the first green building on EDSA. So they wanted something that was iconic, and they also wanted something that was future-proof because it was a growing bank, a savings and loan bank. That time, 14 years ago, using double glazed low E windows was something that was not yet common. We also recycled rainwater, which is something that was still unheard of at that time. We created a green roof, and not too many contractors were comfortable or familiar with the technology. So it really was for us, a challenge, and I've always welcomed the challenge of doing something that was new and something that was innovative. So that also helped us, grow our practice and helped us kind of be known in that field in particular. So the second project that comes to mind is Yushoken, where we are right now. Done a bunch of restaurants for this group who owns Yushoken. And they've always been very trusting with regards to their designers, and I appreciate that. They had a few requests, which is to keep the brand DNA, but aside from that, we kind of had our free reign with regards to creating the facade, evoking a particular vibe, creating something that was iconic. This was going to be their first outpost in Quezon City. So they wanted something that kind of heralded that, hey, we are here in Quezon City. It also had come with its own set of challenges, but I think we were able to overcome that. And, we've gotten a lot of good feedback with regards to just not the aesthetic, but also how functional the space is and operationally how it works. So I think that's kind of memorable for me as well. Third that comes to mind is the G House in Alfonso, Cavite. So this is right now being rented as an Airbnb. At that time, when we were commissioned to do this project, they wanted to use it as a second home. What to me makes that project very interesting is that the project was actually a renovation. So it was an abandoned shell that we, kind of made more current and, really upgraded it. It was like, if you saw the before and after, it was really significant change. And it was always interesting for me. What makes a project memorable as far as I'm concerned is that you can make something from that was like dilapidated and something that somebody would have abandoned. I think that was very challenging because as opposed to working on a clean slate, this one you have to make do with what's existing already. So it was more challenging and therefore memorable for us. Fourth project is Hapag, which just opened recently. It is a restaurant and bar, so there's Ayá upstairs and Hapag downstairs. What the clients or the chefs and the partners wanted was something that was, not your typical Filipino restaurant. They wanted something that pushed the boundaries just the same way that they would, make the dishes or make their cuisine. So we kind of explored a little bit with the materials. So we would make references to Philippine ancestral homes, like we used adobe, we used wood parquet plank flooring. We also used a little bit of the machuca tiles, which you would normally see in ancestral homes. But what we did here was we put kind of like a creative spin to it. Like in the bar of Ayá upstairs, what we did was reinterpreted the Solia pattern, but using a sort of brass or bronze metal patchwork to kind of wrap around the bar. So it was a reinterpretation of what you would normally, just see as like a Solia, but it's a different, totally different spin on it. The fifth, one of our first few ground-up residential projects, which is a house in Antipolo that was built on a small footprint. It's easier always to kind of build clean slate where, it's just raw land that's big and you could do as many things as you want and create so many different spaces. Our journey with homes or residential project, pre-pandemic, we kind of didn't really focus or specialize in residential and homes because it was always challenging having to work with couples. I ended up being marriage counselor, I would always joke. But when the pandemic came about, we kind of had to pivot because the restaurant projects were kind of put on hold because obviously a pandemic, nobody wanted to build anything, not knowing what was going to happen next. So everyone during the pandemic kind of wanted to get outside of the city and, build second homes. What made this project interesting was that because of the small footprint and all the requirements, it was for a home, for a family, a growing family. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to capture all the spaces that they needed. They also wanted to make it sustainable. So it is really quite memorable for us because, again, it also challenged us and it kind of pushed our boundaries when it comes to, creating spaces and, sustainability as well. The forefront of our goal is to make sure that the client is happy. And one of the things that we also try to advocate for is sustainability. So I guess that's the common thread. So artistically or aesthetically, you may not see like a particular DNA, but I guess the DNA that would carry the projects through and seamlessly tie all the projects that we've worked on is sustainability and making sure that we try to espouse green practices in our projects. Thanks for watching. I'm Liza Morales, and this has been my life in architecture.